You're listening to the Global Uj podcast, where every week we learn about the world through the eyes of entrepreneurship. With your host, Ujwal Velagapudi.
We've all heard of the success stories of entrepreneurs starting businesses in college. Martin Kenneth Lopez is one of those who actually founded his business, Tekton Labs, while still in college in Peru. With a go big or go home attitude, he had his eyes set on the USA market and obtained his very first client from posting on tech message boards. This was way back in 2007. Fast forward to 2020, and Tekton Labs has scaled to over 150 employees. We talked about the growth of his business, scaling to so many different countries, replacing himself as a CEO, and now all his plans for his future endeavors. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Welcome to the Global Uj podcast. Appreciate you joining us here today.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yep. So, Kenneth, you told me that you're currently based out of San Francisco and you moved here a few years ago, but your journey had started back in Peru. So could you take us a little bit through where you had started your business, Tekton Labs, how you had started, and kind of your upbringing over there?
Sure. So I'm originally from Peru. I was born there. I had the luck of traveling a lot to the US, and working in Wisconsin. And I had a glimpse of what was technology when I was working in Wisconsin. So I said, that seems nice. Why we cannot do it in Peru? And that's why when I was in university back in Peru, I said, instead of wasting my time, I will say it in my way, wasting time in the university, I will build a company. So the worst thing that could happen is that I will fail. So I started the company when I was in third year of school. That experiment worked, and I was able to scale the company. But always I had the focus of starting in the US, meaning my main market from day one was the US market. That's kind of like a little bit of the story.
Okay. So you had started way back in college. How did you even get to that first client? I'm trying to figure out when starting so brand new, you're not, first of all, not even within the US, but your clients are that you were targeting are US based. And so how were you able to actually land that first client as a college student while still managing your finals and exams and everything?
Well, that was it's very interesting and very important in a way, because the first client, it's kind of like the foundation for the rest, especially in the US market. In Latin America, it's a little bit different because in Latin America, everybody, it's about connections, it's about who you know, it's about your credentials, blah, 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 all the yada, yada. Here in the US, it's different. It's kind of like they give you an option, they give you a chance, and if you take it and you do it in the right way, they will give you more. So long story short, I started writing to SD Forum in that time, that right now is called Silicon Valley Forum, which is basically a board where you were putting announcements like, hey, I'm from Peru. I'm able to work with US clients who wants to sign up. And I didn't find any clients there, but I was finding connections. Those connections allow me to get to the next connection. And finally, I was able to do a small project for Bank of America through a partner, obviously. But it was kind of like our huge first client in the US when I was like 21 or 22. So a big hit. And that takes us to the next client. And that's how we scale the company, basically with almost no sales team until a year ago, basically.
Wow. So it was pretty much off of these forums that you were able to say, hey, I've got these skill sets. I've started this company. Is anyone looking? And then that eventually carried on. Wow. So from that point, after getting your first client, how were you able to, you said that's how you were able to scale your company. So is that how it started? You landed Bank of America, and then that ultimately led to the cash flow, which allowed you to scale your team, grow that sales team, and then therefore, or did you have to actually raise any money, or how did that growth work?
So there are different ways to grow a business. In our case, we didn't raise money because when we started, it was not a trend like it's right now that everybody wants to raise money. So we took the long way, in a way that is kind of, each client is revenue will fuel the expansion and so on. So if you don't scale fast, you will be slow. So that's why it took us kind of like the first client allow us to have a good first reference. So at least when you go to a new market, the references are key, especially in the US. So we needed one reference. We needed somebody who will say, yes, Tekton is great, Tekton is good. So that first milestone or landmark allow us to grade. We have a client. Now the next one was easy, the third one was easy, and so on. So that's how we manage. But we didn't raise money until now, and I don't think we will raise money probably for the next 3 years if everything goes correctly.
What's your mindset on that as far as raising? Because now you're in the Bay, you're in Silicon Valley. I know you touched on it a little bit, but for a company like yours, where on a consultancy you have margins for every single project, so it's the revenue model is relatively simple, right? You charge X. Your costs are going to be X minus Y, so you're going to have some sort of profit margin baked in. So when that's the case and you're cash flowing well, do you ever need to really go and raise money, especially one that's had a 13-year history? I mean, you've started over a decade ago. So is that really necessary, do you think, for...
It's necessary in some ways, depending on the speed and the hunger, meaning that in our journey, we were able to invest in the startups, invest in investment funds because we had the cash. So that doesn't mean that we won't need to raise money in the future, and that will depend on where we want to play. Meaning that you have companies like Globant that are from Argentina and they scale all the way to the US, among others, that they raise money because they want to expand 100x. So in my case, if I want to scale, probably I will be able to do it 3x every year. But I've been using all the resources that I have. But if I want to scale 30x, I will need money. That's where you start seeing if you need or not the money. In our case, the way that we've structured the culture is like more than the speed, it's the quality. So I don't want to be a 6,000 people company without a soul. I'd rather be, like 1,000 really good people that are really passionate for what they do than just a set of bodies in an office.
Right. I agree. And so what is your footprint currently? How many team members do you have across the globe?
Right now, probably 160, 170, depending on how many people we hire, but around there.
Okay. And so you've started in Peru, and now you've got a footprint in Silicon Valley, in various parts of the US, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Dominican Republic, anywhere else?
We have people from Argentina as well, but let's the countries that you mentioned or cities that you mentioned are fine.
Okay, and so in all those countries, where was it a strategic decision to go to one versus another? Like you said, clients are going to be US based, so you want to be here in the US, so that makes sense. But what about the other countries? Were they more so for the talent, or was it more so for the client base that you were seeking this expansion?
Sure, that's a great question. So originally, it's everything because of the talent. We want to diversify the talent, and this means that, for example, we have Peru, Mexico, DR, and Colombia. What we want to do eventually is kind of like Colombia will be center of excellencies for IoT, Mexico for DevOps, Peru for cybersecurity, and so on. That way, when we need to build a team, it's kind of like the best of each region that will assemble this team. That doesn't mean that we won't be taking clients locally. That's not my main focus, but that happens. So we have clients in many of these countries because they know about us and they call us. But our focus here, our effort is here in the US.
Okay. And going back to what you guys do, can you go through a little bit about what your services were when you started back in 2007 versus what the gamut of services that you guys offer today, and how that's grown over the years?
So at the beginning, we started as a software company per se, meaning that we were receiving requirements and we will build it with a good quality, but not asking too many questions. Because the story about Tekton is that before I created the software company, we were a product company. So I failed miserably building 10 products. So I realized I'm not good building products, but I'm good building products for someone else. So that's how I pivoted into what was Tekton at that moment. So we started doing only software. And then as we evolved, we realized that the clients need more help from UX UI. We were doing UX UI wireframes before nobody was doing it, or in the early stages for free, just because we rather invest in that than building software that is crappy. So that's how we do it. If you compare today against today, it's like kind of like right now we are a consulting company, meaning that 50% of what we do is consulting in regards to product validation, market feed, process, market assessments based on the product, even the business model, all the way through architecture before we even build it. So that's a huge difference from the first times of Tekton.
I actually love that, and I think that front end expertise really comes only with a decade long of experience, right? I mean, it's nothing that you could have done from day one, because that truly, I think the back-end work, the actual technical post-architecture work could be done by many people, but it's truly the front end that I think takes a certain level of expertise to be able to say to a client, hey, we can consult you on this, because it's not about actually executing the building and the development work. It's about constructing the framework in which you can actually give those documentation, give that information to the development team to actually execute.
And the culture right now, the company is kind of like, we question everything, meaning that, yes, the client might tell you, yes, I need a CRM. It's like, why? Convince me that you need a CRM. And if you need a CRM, there's 10 in the market that you can just pay. So we don't need to build it. So that's kind of like
right.
how we approach issues.
Right. And do you focus on in any one sector, any one industry, or is it just based on the client, you kind of focus on their framework and what they need, and not so much the industry?
We over the years we work with different sectors, all the way from education to government. But today I will say that we are really strong in financial services, in banking, fintechs, insurance companies, healthcare, and now, but these days, retail. Obviously, everybody is doing retail, and the one that we are becoming strong is going to be real estate. That's something that even real estate is getting up to date thanks to COVID. So there's a lot of work to do there.
Just curious on the insurance front, because I own a insurance software consulting business as well, and so we're trying to focus on the digital transformations for some of these businesses, and they're extremely archaic. I mean, insurance is probably one of the oldest industries out there. And so could you go through a certain product or something that you've built for one of your clients that so I can conceptualize?
Yes. So we had everything from the insurance company that they want to build a new product that will allow you to diagnose or improve your diabetes, that extreme, all the way through, you know what, we need to move to the cloud. We have no idea how. But I will go in one in the middle, what was kind of like with a huge insurance company in Latin America. I cannot say the name, but it was really interesting because they were one of the first insurance companies in Latam to move to the cloud. So when we arrived to the company, it's kind of like, shoot, you want to transform your company? Data is the key. But before we even think about prediction or anything like that, let's clean the house, meaning that you have island systems, you have the same patient as a prospect, as a client, perhaps 3 different ways to see the client because you have middle name, no middle name, ID, no insurance. So it was kind of like messy. And that's why they had so many issues, because you were already a client and you will receive advertisement from, like, if you weren't. So it took us almost like 9 months to clear or make a real inventory and establish a centralized database, so we can start killing system by system. So we can have one source that will connect with the backend, meaning that the core systems, the CRM, the ERP, and all that. And then we build the layers out, all the front end. So they can use mobile applications, they can use WordPress, they can use all these integrations. So it took us, it's a client that is still working with us today, but it was like a really long project. But it was really fun.
That's speaking my language, because I've definitely come across those situations where either through acquisition or just over the years, you have multiple different teams and departments that have been constructed using systems that are in parallel yet not integrated. So it just whenever I look at those situations, whenever I'm in client engagements, it just kind of baffles me. Why are you doing this in parallel instead of being an integrated tool or a team company wide? So yeah, I love those situations where you can break those barriers and just build a system where it can be integrated, regardless state by state. Combining various state regulations or internationally as well. Typically for insurance, do you focus on carriers or is it the brokers or?
It's a little bit of everything in this regard, because we have from the insurance company, the brokers, also in some insurance companies, they own their own clinics. So it becomes a crossover between healthcare, and then they have the laboratories as well. So it's hybrid of a little bit of everything.
All right. Okay. And so as far as your team goes, you mentioned ideally you'd want certain folks that specialize in a certain product or a certain element of the development and within each country and within their own specialties. So, but when you first started, how did you actually expand into those areas? I'm talking the nitty-gritty details of actually opening shop there, you flying down there. I mean, was it that complex where you needed to have maybe someone, let's say you're opening up somewhere close by in Bogota. Did you know somebody out there? Did you have somebody that can say, hey, you know what? I'll actually manage this facility for you. I'll manage this team. I'll do the hiring. Or were you out there, especially in your early years, doing all the hiring, scaling the team and making sure that it's got stability and then moving on country to country? How did that process actually work?
So at the beginning, we started in Peru, obviously, and I was in charge of recruiting and all that. We didn't have an HR team. So we were I was searching more for talent than experience per se, because I can teach you to code, but I cannot teach you to think or to have critical thinking or growth mindset or grit. So that's something that I cannot teach you. That's in you or not. So I was searching for that, because at the beginning I need people who will follow me to the hell back and forth. So that was I was searching. And in order to get that, I was in recruiting. I understood how to do it in Peru. And then I was traveling to Mexico. So I can do the same. You know what I mean? It was kind of, I will say, in an issue. It was an issue or a challenge at the beginning, but once that you master the culture, and then it's kind of like Peru has one culture, Mexico has a different culture, Colombia has a similar culture, but with a twist. Once that you understand the small adjustment that you need to do to the final, it works perfectly. But it took me, from 50 people, I was hiring one, if I was lucky. 2 perhaps. So I was really picky, even today.
Yeah. And so what about today? How does that operation work? Do you have kind of an office manager or a manager in every single country that's your core leadership team that you?
We have a kind of like a different structure. So we have the shared services. That means, for example, for HR, it's in Peru. From Peru, we hire people everywhere, even in the US. Because that's where they have all the knowledge and all that. We're not in the dimension that we will need somebody of HR in each of the countries, especially right now because of COVID, everybody's remote. So it won't make even sense to have somebody in HR there. But we don't have that. Now, going to the territories, as we call them, we are trying to manage by country managers in a way. So each country or territory has one country manager that you can manage one or more cities, depending on the density or the amount of projects that you will have. That's how we manage.
And any new countries that you're looking towards?
We search a lot. In America. So America in general, we went all the way from Patagonia to Canada. So the countries where we are probably the ones that we will stay. That doesn't mean that we won't be opening any other commercial offices. Now I'm searching again in Europe, just because we might scale or we might need different type of talent. So Europe is one more area that I already tried to explore. Didn't work the first time, but let's see how this goes this time again.
Why didn't it work?
I was in Vienna, Austria, trying to open the office, and it's a different structure than the US. Even when it's European Union, it's not too much as a union, meaning that in each country is different laws, different procedures, different culture for doing business. Even some of the current, maybe when you have the euro, in not all the countries that work. So it was a little bit challenging, and it was not perhaps a good timing for us because we were scaling. Derail us on our focus. So now we're bigger. Let's see if the experiment might work better again.
And within the Americas that you've already opened shop in, has that process been pretty easy as far as opening the company, getting folks, as far as legally?
Yes and no. Legally, for example, Mexico was a little bit challenging. Legally, in all the countries, it's a little bit challenging, except the US, even in Peru, where I have a passport. Hiring people is not that complex. As long as you have, now that we have our process well-defined, it works perfect. But before, was kind of like adjusting, but legally, the taxation, that's the headache, because you need to see, for example, taxation right now. Where do you invoice? Do you invoice from each country? Do you invoice from Peru? Do you invoice from Mexico? Do you invoice from the US? Where they have a treaty? How you move the money? All those things that you need to end up paying lawyers, accountants, so you don't pay a lot of taxes in the good way.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that is pretty interesting, especially when, so many different regions. Yeah, I never thought about the invoicing aspect. That is significant. And one thing that you had mentioned was that with your current entity, because of the cash flow, because over the years you've never raised, but you've still been able to actually invest into other companies. So can you go through that a little bit? So have you acquired any companies under your umbrella, or is it investing in light companies, or is it personal investments? What exactly did you mean by that?
We tried to acquire a company in Mexico because obviously it's easier to buy the company than build it, but it didn't work out. That's why we stopped and say, let's build it our own in each country. Then I personally invest as an angel investor in startups and our investment funds in the US. Okay. As a company, we also used to invest in startups, but then we realized that we don't control the startup. So it's kind of risky, because if you don't control it, they might just hit the tree and they're dead. So that's why we invest more in, as Tekton, we invest more in funds, kind of like Endeavor Catalyst in New York, or other funds that are more solid, that they do all the due diligence, they know the startups, they know how to control it, and we just piggyback from that.
So that's interesting. So you're not actually, when you invest in a fund, it's completely different from investing and outright acquiring a company for growth. So is it you're able to do that and have that flexibility because you own the company outright, or majority of it, and are looking for the long haul, or because I'm trying to understand the fund versus maybe, let's say, buy an existing company to roll up into the
idea of as a company to invest in funds is because we are helping a lot of startups, meaning that when you have the funding, we can help the startup to scale and all that. So we have a really good connection with investment funds, because sometimes even part of we do part of the due diligence. We're part of the selection committee. We help them to scale in different ways. So we became kind of like an advisor of the funds, especially in technology, because you need to understand somebody like, hey, they don't have an IP. It's just BS. Or they said this will scale. It won't scale. It will cost you another $1 million just to make it scale. So it's not bad. It's just like, it's not as value as they said. So that's why we invest in funds, because in a way, it's kind of like a good way to get into that market. The second is like, hey, let's invest a little bit and see how that goes. We can learn from that. That way we will get closer to more and more funds. The idea is that eventually we're known by, okay, they know about startups, they know about the process of investing, so we can just get them into that niche.
Mm-hmm. And so are you building kind of an M&A or kind of this investment division within the company, or is it more so you and your connections?
That's a very good point. Right now, it's on me. Eventually, I want to create kind of like a finance division of the company, meaning that for everything that is fintech, and this could be from creating financial products all the way through investing, or like it happens. A lot of investors, they approach to us, it's like where we should invest. And kind of like right now, it's like, oh yeah, invest in that one, in that one, in that one. We're not involved, but could be interesting in the future to have something more concrete there.
Right. And so that's as far as funds go. And then you were mentioning when you were initially looking into Mexico, you had wanted to actually purchase a company. Is that was that in the early days where you were contemplating, should I actually start this myself within Mexico and go through that, I guess, headache of a process, or actually just buy something and just boom, we've got it, we can jumpstart this thing? Is that something that
it was more in the middle because kind of like we were scaling and I was really picky, and then we found a company that was really good, but the numbers didn't add up. So we said, okay, this will save us 2 years of work, but it's too expensive. So with that money, I can build two offices in 2 countries. So no way. And then the second part of your question was,
are you still considering that today?
No, to be honest, unless I see something, for example, what I will be really interested in right now, it's acquiring a company focused on something in a niche. Like, okay, a company focused on DevOps, great, I want to buy it. Company focused on IoT, I will be interested. Mm-hmm. A company in cybersecurity, or even something as simple as digital marketing. Good digital marketing agency, I will buy it. Mm-hmm. Because those are the things that I don't have it, and it will take me years to master. So why waste? Right. Why wait? See if I can buy it. So
exactly, and then leverage that opportunity or leverage those assets, those connections, clients to be able to cross sell some of your existing products and services. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And as far as your personal investments go, what do you typically look at? I mean, obviously you're in the Bay Area. I'm sure you get inundated with requests and deals every single day, or if not every single hour, through multiple mediums. So how do you sift through those, and what are you looking to do outside of the business?
What I like to invest, I mean, more than the idea itself, I invest in the team. So as you mentioned, I receive a lot of inbound offers to invest, but I like to invest in the team, and this means that I need to understand what they want to do, the purpose, if this really motivate them, and also if I can help them. Because I might have the money, but for me, it's not just writing a check. I'm not doing this because of, yes, I want to invest 20 and then I will recoup my money. I want to learn. I want to help other entrepreneurs the same way that other entrepreneurs helped me when I was at the beginning. So I need to understand, like, can I add value to them besides the money? Can I bring connections? Can I give experience or something like that? If I'm not able to bring value to the table, I won't invest, even if I have the money. So that's kind of like my thesis on how to choose. I like more real estate, scoring in any regard, scoring in health, in financials, or whatever. That's kind of like my sweet spot, but I need to be able to help them to scale somehow. Otherwise, I'm useless.
Mm-hmm. More so B2B or B2C?
Anytime of the day.
B2B. Okay.
It's easier to scale.
Okay. And definitely. And as far as focusing on Tekton versus some of your other interests, how do you, I guess percentage-wise, how much time do you focus running the company versus maybe your other interests like mentoring, working on some of your other angel investments and other endeavors?
So 18 months ago, I hired a CEO that was trained, who was really trained, prepared, and it's doing 10 times better than I was doing it. So the company is better, healthier, I'm happy, and I can use part of that time to follow, other things that I want to do. So,
oh wow, that's amazing. Because I know a lot of people talk about that they want to do that. How did you pull the trigger at the moment that you realized I need to get somebody else in for whatever reason? Or was it kind of an ongoing process that maybe you got feedback to do this? Kind of what led to you giving up the reins to somebody else? And was that a struggle?
I was happy. From day one, the objective of any company is that it's not depending on the founder. That's kind of like my philosophy. So from day one, it's like how this company could be real, meaning that if I die or I get hit by a car or the plane crashes, will this company survive, or is just me that is helping the company to scale? So from day one, I tried to build a company with a good culture that if I die, I hope that they continue with the same quality. And that took me to what else do I need to build? Kind of like a steps. I need to build a good HR foundation, a good culture, a good pipeline of projects, a good financial model, a good blah, 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 until it's like, okay, now I need somebody who will be able to run all these because I don't want to run it. I don't wake up every morning saying, hey, let's see the P&L. Great. I'm so happy. I don't like that. I like to solve issues. So that's what motivates me. So that's how I'm looking to see the experiment, how this goes. Probably in a year or two, I will be able to say, great. Now the company, it's running by itself. I'm the founder. Great. I'll help the company, but it's not tied to me in all the regards.
That's good. That's good. And was that something that you had, or I mean, was it something that from day one you knew I want to do this?
Otherwise, it's kind of like you're lying yourself saying, yeah, I'll build a company. A company is an entity that can run by itself without you in the equation. Otherwise, it's like it's just a nice lifestyle business. That's my point of view. People might hate me for that, but that's how I see it.
That's true. No, I definitely agree. And then now, as far as because you've done this, you've got expertise within this niche where it is so encompassing. I mean, you could help so many different businesses. It's a pretty versatile expertise that you do have. So what are you trying to do right now? Because you haven't quite, I mean, it's not like you've exited the business, but maybe in terms of a time standpoint, you've relieved quite a bit, and yet it's still running. It's still going great. So how do you, like, mentally, I'm trying to understand, are you thinking, let's take some time off, let's chill out a little bit, or are you constantly, no, I want to get back into this and I want to be doing
I'm often thinking of the next thing. So what I'm trying to do is write a book about all the mistakes that I made, write more about, all the mistakes that I made about the company, so other people don't make the same mistakes, and thinking of what could be next in regards, like, should I build a company again? Should I join a board so I can help in other companies? Or I don't know. I'm in that exploration because I'm also still involved in the company, not into day-to-day, but training sales. They need a team of salespeople. I need to train them. They need to see what's my pitch and all that. So that's where we are.
Okay. And so if you had to say off the top of your head, what was one of the biggest mistakes that you did make that if you had not done that, you could have been, maybe 2 steps ahead?
Understanding finance and business administration from day one, because my background is computer science. So I knew how to code even before I went to university, but the financial aspect, I mean, I knew how to charge, but one thing is I know how much to charge you, and a different thing is like how I structure the P&L, the balance sheet and all that. Because if I have put a little bit more effort in that matter, probably we will be able to scale way faster. Let's put it that way.
Wow. And so was that more so during the negotiation process where you're dealing with the clients and you just said, you know what, we'll just give it to you for this amount, or it was the type, let's say it's a fixed
not even that.
Time material
not even that. It was more like in regards to like, hey, how's your financials in your company organized? Can we audit your financial statements? And it's like, oh, no, definitely not, because I didn't follow all. I mean, it's not that we did it in the wrong way. It's kind of like it was not on the standard that a company the size that we have should have it. And we end up hiring a CFO that audit all the books, organize everything. Because, for example, even if we want to get more money, we don't need to raise money. We can just go to the banks because we have a lot of history. So just to go, that's when I hit the wall, because one time we needed the money to scale. And it's like, let's go to the bank and ask for the money. They should give us, look our invoices. And the bank was like, hey, give me your numbers. And it's like, what? What's that? Fill out these forms. It's like, shoot, I don't have that information in the way that you want it. I have it in my own way. That was kind of like a more like how we see the business, but they want to see it in their way. So it took us a lot of time to process, understand that, because we were really young and immature. And then that's where we realized we need to have everything in order. We need to have all this audited. We need to have everything in place. Like if this company will be in sell tomorrow. Now that's how we keep the company. We don't want to sell it, but if somebody wants to review it, you will have everything.
And I think I see that quite a bit, especially with a lot of companies that have been bootstrapped or have started without any intent to raise down the road or without any intent to truly exit. I mean, you're just running the show. You're doing well financially. Everything is going, but there's no need to show the books to anybody.
Exactly, like the bank. It's like, you want the money? Great. Just give me those numbers. It's like, oh, I don't have it.
Right.
And it's like, how long it will take you? Probably 6 months.
Right.
So
yeah.
Or even when you have huge projects these days, we're prepared. But before, like if somebody asks you, hey, we want to see we're working with several companies. They said, hey, show me your financials audited from the last 3 years. Now it's like, yeah, that's fine. They'll take it. But 5 years, 6 years ago, it's like, okay, I don't have that. So you even when we like you, we cannot give you the project because you don't follow our compliance.
Yeah, been there. Definitely during the supplier vetting process where, all right, let's see everything, the financial risk assessment, the risk profile of the supplier. And, it's tough to do that, especially when you're a smaller company or when you've been doing it in such a way. So especially at the 11th hour when bidding is completed, bidding is closed, and there's vetting the suppliers, and then whoever's ready to go, unfortunately, will close that deal. As far as some of your other interests go, what, aside from your current business right now, what has been the most exciting to you? If you could take everything away, you have zero time, 0 hours in the day that you're spending on everything else, and you could spend all the time in the world on a new technology, a new endeavor, a new opportunity. What is really attractive to you right now?
Because right now, a lot of people, the thing is that with technology, it's became more and more granular and more complex to understand, and the companies didn't get it. And the engineers, you can say, yes, I'm a great Bash and Perl engineer, and then suddenly, no, you're a great product owner or Scrum Master or whatever. But people and engineers, or people and people, they don't understand each other. So for me, there is a huge gap into how you recruit people.
Right.
Recruiting, it was kind of like really easy in a way when you were hiring a CFO, CEO, because you know exactly what you're expecting. The input and output is clear. In the digital world, it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. You have no idea what with the input, you have no idea what with the output. So you need somebody who is flexible enough if you understand the purpose for both of them. So that's where I'm seeing a lot of my head is going into that direction. And again, that mix between scoring in a way and also HR, and everybody will need technology. Everybody will need people. That takes you to the second one. The second level of that one is kind of like training, because in one way you will be able to help people that is already trained and prepared, but in the second wave you will need more of those people, and you won't find them on the market. So you need to train people. That's where my head is going.
Yep. When you said scoring, do you mean, because I've always thought about this, there's a glass door for companies, but why not a glass door for the actual people? Do you mean some sort of assessment or scoring on profile?
For the engineer, I will put it for scoring for digital talent and scoring for companies that require digital talent. So I can be sure that, yes, you're asking for an agile team of what and for what. And then I will be able to tell you what exactly do you need. That's where my head is going.
Okay. And how do you integrate the technology aspect into that? Because I do see, based on what you're saying, there is a lot of subjectivity, right? It's going to be truly understanding, empathizing with the people, and it's more of a people aspect when you are recruiting, right? So integrating the technology will be a complement, but it wouldn't completely be able to
in a way,
replace, for
in,
sure,
in a way,
the
obviously I
recruitment
haven't solved that
process.
issue. I've seen a lot of startups in that
Yeah.
market that are trying to do something similar. So what I'm seeing in the world is kind of like pieces. So what I do is like, can I put those pieces together so I can build a product, or I need to build that product? Because in a way, yes, the technical part is easy to validate in a way, because you just give the challenges or the test like Google does, and you see, yeah, this guy is great. But I want to know, it's like, is him a good fit for my company in Mexico or in Canada, depending on the culture there.
Right.
So you have different factors. Like Canadians have specific aspects of their culture that are different from the US. The US is way different than Mexico. Mexico is way different from Chile. So this algorithm, in a way, needs to understand like what are those key factors that you need to check. For example, in Argentina, everybody's good talking. Great. Do I need a lot? Do I put a lot of in my algorithm that's good or bad? That doesn't matter, because everybody's good talking. So I need to evaluate something else and something else and something. It's kind of like layers of an algorithm that I want to build in a way.
Oh, wow. That is true. That's very true, especially as I've dealt with so many different people, so many either colleagues or clients or people that I was looking to hire in multiple different countries. It's the cultural aspect is very significant. I mean, not just the language, but it's just how you do business, when you do business, why you're doing it. The motivation is a significant factor. Yeah.
So if you want money, great. But I will put you in jobs where you will make a lot of money and there's no soul. If that's what moves you, great. Because they don't care about culture. They don't care about anything. In the other hand, do you care more about environment? Do you want to care? What do you care? Based on that, that's why the algo needs to go for both ends. I assess you in a way like, I know what you're good for, what's your culture. The other side is like, this company, even when it's kind of like a good fit, you won't last. And that's what's happening everywhere. You have engineers that are really good and they work 6 months, 8 months, and they move. That rotation is expensive. I mean, and the quality of the product is crap. And then everything goes to hell. And then you ask why digital transformation is not working. That started with the recruitment.
And so when you were running the full operation, how did you oversee kind of the cultural aspects? Obviously, within each region, you have your own office manager and that leadership team built in. But as a whole, when you're looking down on your team, you've got multiple different cultures, styles, perspectives, motivations. So from your seat, how did you manage that? And were there a lot of cultural learning sessions or any sort of team building things that you did?
My way was very easy. I will travel. I was traveling a lot. So I was like meeting with people. I was sitting with them. I was trying to communicate. I was trying to understand what moves them, what motivates them, what's the problem. That's the only way that, that's the only way. That was my way, and it worked because in each of the regions we were trying to do, and for example, in Peru, we were trying to do a lot of team building exercises, but the best way was me traveling to Peru, stay with them, talk to them, have lunch with them, sitting with them, the same with Mexico, the same with everywhere. The same thing I do with my clients because I treat them in the same way. I mean, we are a team. So I was traveling a lot back in the day. I was traveling like 3 weeks a month, 3 weeks every month, just visiting. I was taking my bag and I was like 3 weeks, like Mexico. I was doing Lima, Mexico, Miami, Charlotte, New York, Chicago, Texas, San Francisco, back to Lima. That was my job in a way.
Wow. Your loop. And I'm sure your team definitely appreciated it and loved you for doing that, because having that face-to-face exposure, especially from the founder, I'm sure they valued that and thinking, you know what, this guy is actually coming to see me on a frequent basis. He's spending the time with me. He's visiting me face-to-face. It's not over the phone. It's not through my direct manager. The head of the company is actually coming and talking to me and our team as a whole on a frequent basis. Do you think that actually, like, you could see that and that kept you going because you saw that connection, you saw that trust?
That was my hypothesis, and that was validated once that we start seeing it. The same for the clients, like everybody have value when you go and visit them. Hey, why you're here? Just visit you guys. I don't have any other meetings. And my clients are in the US, so I'm here in Peru just because I want to see you and see how we can make the company better, what we could improve. So what I try to apply always is like, we don't even build plans for the next 5 years. I don't believe in that. I believe in like how we're better in the next quarter, how we're better in that quarter after that, based on the previous one. So because if I'm telling you, yes, we will be $100 million in 5 years, great. I don't care. I mean, we could make zero profit with 100 million. I'd rather stay where I am with good profit. So it depends. I'm just trying to be better every day.
And so you had started out in Peru. When you go back, when you visit there today, how is the ecosystem for either startups or new entrepreneurs, even in school, for someone like you who had started a business right within college? How is that environment
from
today?
When I started, meaning that right now you don't see investment funds. You don't see venture capitalists, but you see a lot of angel investment in the area, meaning that there are people that are willing to put money. You see a lot of startups. The ecosystem in Peru is a little bit immature in many ways because it's small. It's behind, but at least it's showing signs of, yes, it's improving, it's going to be better. And the only thing that I always mention to startups in Latin America, and not only in Peru, is that think big. They tend to think like, oh, Mexico's huge. Oh, in Peru, oh, Chile. But guys, that market size is like this. So if you think that that's your universe, I won't even listen to you because that's too small.
And that's why it's surprising that you from day one thought, you know what, I'm going to have my client base.
If you're going to, I'm going to fail anyway.
Yeah,
so why am not fail doing something big? In my way, I didn't have nothing to lose. Today, I don't care if I lose everything. I can start again. But at that moment, it was like 21, 22, no mortgage, no debt. So it's like, what the worst thing that could happen? I will learn. If my objective in university was like build one startup every semester. So the worst thing that could happen is that you will fail in all of them, and you know that you are not good for building companies, and just go and work for IBM. So in this case, it's like if we are aiming to a market, let's go for the biggest market. The worst thing is like we will get 0.0001%, and that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And so the environment out in Peru, is it? You said there's not many VCs, but are the angel investors? Are they more entrepreneurs like yourself that have been doing well and want to give back to the community and invest locally, or is it people, maybe family offices, things like that are getting into the angel world? Or who are these folks, or are they actually foreign investors looking to invest with them?
A little bit of family offices, very small, and most likely will be executives that are retired and they have money, so they want to get into the new trend of technology and be cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Yeah, no, that's good though. At least that they are seeing this and they're able to actually invest within this, within the local environment, the local ecosystem. So, hopefully that will inspire a lot more folks within the country, within the cities, and, develop new entrepreneurs like yourself. So, but Kenneth, thank you so much again today. I know probably got to run, but appreciate you taking the time and going through, kind of your journey, how you started, expanded to so many different countries, expanded your team, and then also interested to keep tabs on what you're doing for the future, because I know you're going to kill it in whatever you do.
Happy to participate. Perfect.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the show this week. Please do leave a comment on your thoughts about today's episode, and make sure to hit subscribe to get the latest on the Global Uj. Or if you already have, please share with a friend that you think might enjoy.